Right. Have the actual webcam back now, so like hopefully the audio and the video is working. Did you get a question in advance before I answer that? Comment. I think in about 3 weeks, I'm going to need to move the Tuesday live stream to an hour earlier. There's a professional development session I really want to go to. It's basically about equity and basically helping with equity in the classroom. It's the only time I can get, but it's just going to move up the office hour in advance, and I'll send an email earlier that week saying that, by the way, it's just going to be an hour earlier. Again, you're always free to email questions in advance, but it's a really good PD session, and it's pretty much the only time it's offered. So again, I'll send an email and ask about that. Now, I got a question from Organic 2, and this was concerning ring closing reactions, particularly with this benzene ring here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And the reaction has AlCl3, and you end up getting it's that compound there. Let me verify for you too far. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, question is, how does this work? Well, this is just Friedel-Crafts acylation. So, beginning of the semester, we talked about this reaction, where if we had an acyl chloride and we used AlCl3, we would get this ketone with the benzene ring. This is basically all that's going on with this reaction, that the R group in this case actually includes the benzene ring. So there's just this long chain connecting the benzene ring to the acyl chloride. Sorry, the light's kind of in the way there. Oh, that didn't do much. A little bit. So instead of the R group kind of being disconnected from the ring, this is just an intermolecular interaction. So this is a molecule reacting with itself. And that's also the example that's beneath it, where instead of you're starting with a carboxylic acid, now you're going to react it with thionyl chloride. The thionyl chloride will basically give you this compound. So the example beneath it. The thionyl chloride here is going to create these acyl halide, acyl chloride, and then your AlCl3 is just the next step. The rest of these are all kind of just taking these approaches. Actually, no. So the next two are carboxylic acids and just basically making carboxylic acids. The last one is making a carboxylic acid using dihalide with carbon dioxide. You should notice that a lot of these we're kind of getting back to old reactions now. So at the start of the semester, we introduced a whole bunch of reactions of benzene, and we're introducing new reactions in this unit as well, but we're also going to start recycling reactions that we saw earlier in the semester and stuff you saw from Organic 1. So definitely oxidation reactions, halogenation reactions, additions across double bonds. We're not going to tread too heavily into territory. Ooh, turn that volume down. We're not going to tread too heavily into territory like kinetic and thermodynamic products. We don't really need to go to that. Like, we're not going to kind of revisit that too heavily. But again, organic chemistry does build on itself. Organic 1 and Organic 2 are meant to dovetail very well in terms of course design. So all those reactions you learned in Organic 1, if you go to the course website, there is a big sheet that says reactions from 251, one that's filled in, one that's not. Make sure you can do those, because those are still fair game. And also, I think there is a sheet on there that gives the summary of the reactions for 252. We're going to start working through all those reactions as well. That sheet definitely gives a full disclosure of the reactions you need to know. So yeah, I would keep an eye on that as well. So that was it in terms of questions. If I got the chat menu open, if you got any questions, please feel free to ask in the chat. Otherwise, I need to get a little bit of work done. Again, these are not lessons. These are not lectures. These are office hours. So there's nothing prepared here. If you got a question, you need to answer it, ask in the chat or ask it in advance. So just got an email asking, can I discuss how to do naming aldehydes with alkenes, because there's a discrepancy between the video and the notes. Send me an email about the video with a link to that video so I can find it. I plan on doing a video update over spring break. I would go with what is off in the notes, generally speaking, because probably what happened when I did the video, these kind of get weird to name. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pent is our parent chain. It's probably going to be a pentanal. And our primary here is going to be aldehyde. This is definitely the most reactive, so this is going to be 2-pentanal. If we did this, oh, we're not even going to bother with dienes. We add one more. This becomes 3. Hexenal. So pretty much analogous to alcohol. So when we had alkenes with alcohols, we had the hexene, or we had the parent chain, the ene, and then the al, or the all for the alcohol. So we had something like this. Come here. What's wrong? Oh, come here. So the alcohol, this was the hexene, and we would have had 3 hexene, 1 all. Because an alkane, an alda, how it was in the video. I think that's what it says in the notes too, that you're definitely going, you don't need to specify the position of the aldehyde, because the aldehyde is definitely on the very end of the chain. And then, yeah, you'll have to specify the position of the alkene. Oh, so that extra E and E, it's actually just highlighted incorrectly. So that NONEN, that's the nonin, that's the 9-chain carbon. So it just should be the enal at the end. So that's just a formatting error. Really? So yeah, I think the extra E in was just highlighted by accident. It's should be the same. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, she's a little fussy today. She had a hairball this morning, so she wants to be held. She even got a little tongue out. All right, so let's shut the camera off. Here you are. Naming when there are 2 aldehydes present. Is that even in the notes? It's not in the notes, and we're not going to go over it. Actually, no, there it is, the dial. So when it comes to naming with the dials, we are going to cheat. And we're going to cheat because there are scenarios that you can conceive of where the aldehyde is on one parent chain, but the other aldehyde is not. We are not going into that level of depth. So when it comes to naming the dialdehydes, you're going to name it as you normally would, and then you're going to add the dial. And so it'd be like hexane dial. Oh, it's so hard to pronounce. Okay, I need to put you down. So basically, we're going to again, we're going to cheat. This is a hexadiol. Any functional groups we have in here are going to get named in this area. And we're going to keep it simple. We're not going to bother with like super complicated 20 functional groups on a given molecule. It's presented there just for completeness. For the same reason if we have a dicarboxylic acid, like you have the ability to name it. But this is as hard as we're getting, maybe putting branches on there. We're not going to focus on like having like alkenes in there, ketones in there, lots of different weird branches. So this is as hard as it gets. It's hexadiol. And again, both aldehydes are always going to end up being on the same parent chain. There are ways to name it when it gets off the parent chain, but you start getting into really esoteric territory at that point. I'm a little confused as well. I would assume that it would have the A&E part. It may have just been the version of the textbook I was working with. So to be honest with you, I'm a little confused as to why when I got this out of the book, my version of the book, it said that there was you dropped that part. But again, I'm willing to bet that I agree with you. I think the A&E and the E&E should be in there in case you have like a hexene diol. But then the question becomes, where do you drop? Do you drop the E at the end? And I haven't seen a lot of textbooks or examples really go through this. So I'm not disparaging your question. What I'll say is that I think the reason why I'm having so much trouble finding information about when I wrote these notes, like I try to consult multiple sources, particularly with the diols. It did show up in a source or two, so I think the Carey textbook talks about it as well. But I couldn't find a lot of sources that talk about it, and honestly, I think the reason why they don't talk about it that much is that it's kind of an esoteric case. Um, Aldehydes are typically not. You're starting to get into situations where IUPAC, there's probably a trade name for whatever you're working with. So again, I'm not trying to like disparage your question. I'm not trying to skirt your question. The short answer is I haven't found a lot of resources to how to name the dialdehydes. Because of this, I'm kind of having to go off the few sources I have. I'm inclined to agree with you. I think the A and E and the E and E ending should be in there. But also, a lot of these, when you add that extra ending, that E disappears sometimes. And the only examples I could find basically drop the E and E and the A and A anyway. So there probably are IUPAC rules. I just couldn't find a lot of examples in which to build these notes. I include it because I think it is in Francis Carey, which is the book we're using right now. But again, we're going to keep to simple examples because there aren't that many examples online. recommend doing the ANE, ENE. Again, I think that makes a lot more sense. I would need to go through to check to see the sources I got for this particular set of notes. For all I know, this is just a typo in the notes. But yeah, I would just really say keep the ANE, ENE ending. That would make a lot more sense because you do need to, with these compounds, there is still a need to specify if you're working with an alkane, an alkene, and an alkyne. So yeah, I would hold on to it. All right, you're welcome. So I got asked about for graphical analysis of spectroscopy. I got marked wrong. Show you trial which I've done. You didn't actually say which one it applied to. You just plotted all three graphs and just posted them. So the question isn't asking you for the graphs. It's asking you that based on the graphs, what was the order? And when I checked through the worksheet, I didn't see that. What I saw were posts of all the graphs. So again, like, you can post the data, but you still have to demonstrate that you understand the analysis. And that's more what the question was asking for, was like, based on this analysis, what conclusion can you draw? So the question got asked, I just can't say first order because I did the graphs. There was no comment in the worksheet about which order it corresponded to. There were just three plots. So yes, you had the three plots, but you didn't say based on these three plots what's the order. It really seemed like you were getting me to infer for you. You still have to explicitly say what the order is. All you had were just three plots. So again, like, what you're saying here is correct, but that's not what was said in the worksheet. What was said in the worksheet was there were three graphs. It didn't say what order it corresponded to, it just said there were three graphs. The correct response would say, based on plot of this versus this having the IRR squared, I would conclude that it is X order, whatever order it ended up being. But again, when I graded it and what I saw on the website were just three plots. It's three plots. It doesn't tell me what the order is. I know, but your point of the assignment is to demonstrate that you understand like how the plots can be used to give order. just presenting the 3 plots does not show that. It just shows that you generated 3 plots. So regarding the diluted concentrations, when you mix the 2 mLs, 2 milliliter aliquots together, they mutually diluted. And so that would have been 20 milliliter solutions from each of the 10 ml solutions. That roughly works out to, that actually exactly works out to a dilution factor of 1/2. So in the columns where you entered the concentration, you wrote the concentration of the solutions you were using, not what they ended up being when they diluted each other. So that's what it was asking for, was what was the concentration after they mix, after they dilute it, because you need that information to know what the starting concentrations actually were. You're actually starting at half the starting concentrations, not the concentrations of the solutions you made. So that's why that was marked down, was because it's not the correct starting concentration, it's actually twice the starting concentration. So again, they mutually diluted. This is very analogous to the previous lab you did, where you had to figure out the concentrations that, yes, the concentration of the iodate, and also when you did the iodine clock lab last week, you had to calculate the concentrations after they were mixed together. You can't report the concentrations out of the box or the concentrations of the stock solutions, because that's not the concentration after they mix. So that's why that was marked incorrect as well. So trial 1 should be half of trial 3, but my data was invert. That implies that you mixed the concentrations together incorrectly. So you had solution to A and B were roughly half their concentrations. So if you did solution B first and then solution A second, you would have ended up getting half the rate. And so I would definitely say that is not a legitimate source of error, because you should have caught that you have the concentration and the rate doubled. That's probably, with solution chemistry, very rare that you ever see what's considered inhibition or negative rate orders. So I would definitely look through your notes and see what you actually mixed together. Because again, if you're looking for, if it's not exactly half, that's fine. There's always a little bit of fudge with that. But if your rate doubled when you switched to a lower concentration solution, that means that you mixed the wrong solutions together. You had your A and B solutions flipped, or you had your C and D solutions flipped. Now, based on the absorbances, I don't know off the top of my head, but I would have checked this walking around. I'm guessing that you had the correct A and B solutions, which would imply that you flipped the C and D solutions if the rates are half what they should be. So I would comment on that, but that is something that you should have redone while you were in the lab. At this point, there's no way to redo it, so you've just got to work with the data you've got. All right, so that's into office hours. Again, if you have questions, please feel free to email them in advance or ask them in chat. And I will see some of y'all tomorrow.